Yo guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast with me, Tom and Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks.
And today we got another guest on, another week in a row, football guest, Joe from TurfCast. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you two?
Good, thank you, mate. Before we get into this, thank you guys for the support lately on the channel. It's been fantastic. We always upload these interviewee type podcasts Thursday at 4 p.m. Check out our merch, link in the description as always, and our Twitter at the Blue Podcast 1 and Instagram at the Blue Podcast 1. Now, before we get into it, Joe, do you want to let our viewers know what it is you do over at TurfCast?
So we started off as a podcast. We've been doing the podcast for a year and a half now. But during lockdown, with the first lockdown, we just thought, we had a bit more time on our hands. I wasn't working during that one. I am this time. And my friend's a hairdresser, so he wasn't either. We just, like I said, I had more spare time on our hands. We started doing like vodcasts, so just filming the podcasts. And then started doing sort of like streams for like watch-alongs and stuff like that. It started out when, I don't know if you remember, they did the Premier League Invitational. So like they invited footballers to play against each other on FIFA. We tried it out doing that, just did some watch-alongs on there. We received quite well. We enjoyed them. So we started doing watch-alongs now on the channel, which you can find on YouTube and Facebook. And then we just started doing loads of stuff now. So your watch-alongs, your podcasts, your vodcasts, pre-game shows, match reactions, fan reactions. So pretty much anything I can fit into my day, really.
Fair enough. That's a lot more than we do here. We just do podcasts, to be honest, 2 a week, maybe 3 if we're feeling special. But we once did 4. That was a long week, actually. The reason we got you on this week is because after Chelsea play Wolves tonight, they play Burnley on the weekend. So we thought, it'd be appropriate to get a Burnley fan on for this week. We normally try and get our, in terms of football guests, we try and get a fan from either a club playing City, who Ben supports, or Chelsea, who I support. What the games yesterday? City beat West Brom 5-0.
Yeah.
How was that?
Good. Good, yeah. Like, no disrespect to West Brom, but we can't get carried away because it's West Brom. I mean, obviously it looked like we coped quite well without De Bruyne, but I think that we're really going to find out if we cope without De Bruyne in the next few matches. Because I think we've got Liverpool, Tottenham and Arsenal in a row in February, which he's going to miss at least some of them. So it's going to be difficult. But Gundogan's playing well. Bernardo's playing well. Cancelo's playing well. So it's good, but it's I wouldn't say that you can't. I don't think you can say that we're coping fine without De Bruyne because we don't really know yet.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to. Did Gundogan play further up the pitch then because De Bruyne was?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what Pep's going to do then, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he's already been playing him further up anyway, but with De Bruyne not playing, he's even further forward basically. And he's playing well, scoring goals.
Well, none of us predicted none of us from the Purple Show predicted the game, but Cam was closest with 3-0, wasn't
he? Was it 4-0?
Oh yeah, so you predicted 4-0 and it was 5-0.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
But you always, as always, predict that City will concede, even though you've conceded like 1 goal.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a superstition now. If I predict we're not going to concede, we'll concede. So.
Oh yeah, we asked this last week to our guest. Did you have any superstitions before games, Joe?
Not superstitions as such. It's mainly my dad because I go on the games with my dad when you can go on the games. We'd always go to the same shop on the way to the turf, and he'd always buy a Mars bar. We'd always have to walk the same way because that turf, I don't know if you've been to Turf Moor, it's near a lot of like terraced houses and terraced streets and things like that. So there's several sort of like ways you can get to the turf from his house, but he always walks down a specific one. It'll never do a different one. And if I start edging towards a different one, he shouts me back and say, no, I'm going down this street. And he always gets the season tickets out of his pocket on that particular street as well. He won't get them out before and he won't get them out after. So I'm not, it doesn't bother me, stuff like that. But yeah, my dad has a few, definitely.
Oh, fair enough. We that's kind of like, I guess we used to get the tube from Wimbledon Park to Fulham Broadway for to go to Stamford Bridge, and I'd always have to get a pack of wine gums from the corner shop at the tube station. So
Yeah,
that's the thing that's happened for me for a long time.
Yeah.
Arsenal played Southampton yesterday and won.
Yeah.
Just fair play to them, considering they got beaten quite easily on the weekend before.
He did rotate a lot though, didn't he? Don't know why, but he did.
But I know Aubameyang, and they still scored 3 goals is good, but I think it's because Saka's kind of continuing his good run of form and almost is Arsenal's best player right now.
Yeah. I think they've definitely improved the form, haven't they?
Definitely improved their form. Ever since they played Chelsea in it. They turned it around against Chelsea and have done decent since then. Oops, dropped my phone. Then also Palace lost 3-2 to West Ham at home. West Ham are keeping their good run of form as well.
They're in top 4 now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, where are they in the table?
Fourth.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Yeah, to be fair, they've played 20.
Doing a good job.
Arsenal. Huh?
David Moyes is doing a good job at the moment.
I know, he's doing a really good job. How's it feel with the one claret and blue team doing better than the other?
There's always one doing better, isn't there? Like last season, it were us, so I enjoyed that one. Season before, it was probably West Ham. It wouldn't have been Villa season before because they're in Championship then. But yeah, we're at lowest ranked claret and blue team at the minute. Oh, well, in the Premier League, let's count Scunthorpe in that, so they're not the lowest ranked.
Yeah, you always got to count Scunthorpe in that, definitely.
Yeah. I think Burnley have got a few games in hand as well, haven't they? So
yeah, obviously one of them's tonight though. But the other one's against Fulham. One was against Manchester United, which we've obviously played now. But yeah, one's against Fulham. And I know they've picked up slightly recently in terms of performances, but they are drawing a lot of games. So if they play like they did on Sunday against us, they won't be catching us. But I think they rotated a lot on Sunday, to be fair. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in the next few games.
Do you think you'll beat Villa tonight then?
It's going to be a tough one, isn't it? They're a very good side this season, but you're going to be a good side when you've spent 200 million over the course of 2 summers, some 4 transfer windows, whatever it is. I think they could be even better in a couple of years. I think they might even be knocking on the top 4 door where they're going. But I don't know. We're feeling a bit more confident at the minute. We've got a historic win at Liverpool, first time we won there since 1974. And the way I see it, if we can beat Liverpool, we can beat anybody. Especially, no one's won there since 2017, since we rocked up in Ashley Barnes. So I'm feeling confident, but I'm under no illusions. It's going to be a tough game. But my prediction on the podcast this week is that we're going to win 1-0. We've kept them out already this season. We've already played them. It finished 0-0. So fingers crossed we can do it again. And this time we can nick a goal because we have been poor up front recently. But I'm hoping that the 3-0 at Fulham and the 1-0 at Liverpool can sort of help change that.
yeah.
See, I don't want to be mean in what I'm about to say, because basically I predicted that Villa would do really well this season. So I'm unfortunately probably want Villa to win. This is no offense to Burnley, because I do like Burnley, but yeah, I mean, we spoke about this at the start.
I think it'll be a good game. I think that it'll be obviously Villa will be dictating possession and whatever, but then like you say, Burnley have picked up recently, so they'll have a threat on the counter attack. So Villa might nick a goal, but Burnley could quite easily nick a goal on the counter as well. So it could either be like depends if you can keep Villa out. It could be like say a 1-0. If you don't keep Villa out, then it might be like a 2-1 or something like that.
I think it's one of them games that, as neutrals as you two are, if you were looking at that game and you saw that Villa had won 3-0, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. But if you saw that we'd won 1-0 or 2-1 or it was 0-0, you wouldn't bat an eyelid either. That is any scoreline apart from 5-0 Burnley. He's not gonna really shock anybody.
I would be shocked if Burnley could score 5 goals.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time. Trust me, it's been a long time. I think we put 4 past Bournemouth last season, but Bournemouth, obviously they were very poor last season. But yeah, I don't think if we won is what I'm trying. No result's going to shock anybody. I think today. I think everyone knows that Burnley could pull off a result today, but Villa could easily run us over as well.
Yeah, but it's just like you say, Villa are a good side, but Burnley are a solid side. So them getting a 1-0 win or something like that, I mean, they've done, like you say, done it against Liverpool, so quite easily do that again.
Actually, there's something I've forgotten. We should have probably asked you at the start. How does it feel being taken over and possibly having more money?
Well, obviously, it's what date are we on now? 26th, 27th. So we haven't seen any of this money. Yeah, it's interesting. We've been penny pinchers for the last few seasons. There's always been an excuse. There's always been, he needs to be the right player at the right moment, that sort of thing, which I've always understood. I don't want him to do a Portsmouth or a Hull City or a Bolton and end up rolling down the league. But yeah, it's interesting. He's said the right things. He said that Dyche will not be frustrated with expenditure. That was one of his lines that he said, because obviously Dyche has been frustrated with expenditure recently. If we're still here in 20 years, the club will be a very different place with very different ambitions. So he's saying all the right things. There's been a few rumours recently that Josh King and Nathan Collins, a young centre-back from Stoke, could be joining in this transfer window. That would constitute a very good transfer window for me, and I think every Burnley fan would agree with that. So yeah, we haven't seen any of it, but he's saying all the right things. But it's interesting. I think one of the things that I used to always complain about is you don't see many Burnley fans outside of Burnley. One of the things that I like about Burnley is the majority of people in Burnley do support Burnley. Obviously, you get a few people supporting United, Liverpool, as you do everywhere, especially in the Northwest with them being so close. But as a town, Burnley is one of them towns where the majority of the people support Burnley Football Club. But the downside to that was, as soon as you go past Barnoldswick, which is a town just the other side of Burnley, no one really supports Burnley. And I always found that was poor marketing from the club. They didn't really advertise anything properly and things like that. And it sounds like the new chairman, Alan Pace, is going to sort of try and market us better in America and abroad as well. So you look at clubs that have come up from the Championship in recent years, who don't have a history like we do and things like that, your Brightons and stuff like that, and they've got these shiny new stadiums and stuff like that. And I think we need to go down that route. I don't think anyone will see us as a decent sized club until we really sort the stadium out. Not necessarily move. I like what Fulham are doing. They've started doing theirs up recently. Wolves are the same. Molineux looked a bit dated a few years ago. Now that looks nice again. So I think we can do it in the area that we're in. But yeah, we need to be marketed better abroad, and we need some ground improvements, I think, for me. But yeah, of course, the main thing at the minute is seeing some money through players.
Yeah, it was kind of quite a quiet, it kind of happened very quietly in the background of all the news. I felt like it wasn't, because when the Newcastle takeover was going to happen, it was all over the news. Everyone knew about it, whereas you kind of got taken over quite quietly. Do you know why that is? I
just think it's the size of the club, really. I think obviously if Newcastle or Leeds or whatever get taken over, or Villa, it's going to be big news. Obviously, it was big news around here. We were keeping tabs on it. I'd known for about a year that the chairman wanted to sell through press and stuff like that and word of mouth. But yeah, it's always been like that with Burnley. You look at the other day, going back to when we beat Liverpool 1-0. I doubt many people would have seen reports of look at how well Burnley have done and stuff like that. It was all about how poor Liverpool were. Same when we beat Manchester United at Old Trafford last season. Same when we beat Chelsea 3-2 on the opening day of the season a couple of years ago. It were all about how bad Chelsea were. I can't use an example with City because we don't beat City.
Wasn't that the first Conte game?
First game of the season that season. I'm not sure if it was you. Obviously, you'll know more. It was definitely the first game of the season that season. You were defending champions. I think you'd already won the title under Conte.
Yeah, it was the season after. It was the season after we won the title with Conte. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the first day of the season we went to Stamford Bridge and won. But again, everything was just about how bad with Chelsea, how bad with this referee and all that sort of stuff. We're used to it now. It's not a case of you might look at it and go, bloody hell, they've been taken over and no one's really reported on it. It's in terms of national press, we are kind of used to it. We don't really see us sort of reported on a lot around here, to be honest.
You about to say something, Ben? Sorry.
I was going to say, I think with that takeover happening recently, they probably wait until the summer to actually start that investment because they know
maybe
it's difficult in January and stuff like that.
My worry is that this Nathan Collins is quite good. I'm not one of these people that pretend to know everything about everybody. I'll be honest, I've never actually physically seen him play, but just going off what the Stoke City fans have been saying and people that are, well thought of in the game are saying about him, he's going to be a good defender. He's already playing for the Republic of Ireland under 21s. I mean, knocking on the door of the senior squad, I believe. So my worry is if, we've put this bid in, we've put a 4.5 million bid in, typical Burnley. He's worth 10 million. So what we'll do, we'll put 4.5 in, see what happens. My worry is now, if we don't get him in January, it'll go to Arsenal or someone like that in the summer, because Arsenal are apparently interested. There's a few rumours that Villa might be interested. My worry is that. But I'd understand if they waited till summer, but with the way that we are at the minute, all right, we have picked up, so maybe I can't really say this anymore, but what I was saying before the Liverpool win, with where we are in the league at the minute, if we don't bring investment in, the option might not be there in the summer to bring these sort of players in. We might be looking at championship players ready for a championship season. We don't have to spend a lot in January. Just get these couple over the line. Josh King would be fantastic, but I think wages might be an issue with him because Bournemouth paid silly wages. I'd like to get Nathan Collins over the line, definitely.
Fair enough. I just wanted to touch on your end of the table. Actually, now technically almost Chelsea's end of the table now. Yesterday, Newcastle lost again and they lost to Leeds. Do you think they're in almost a relegation battle? Going to be in a relegation battle?
Newcastle are very, very poor. The reason why I don't think they will go down is because I think they'll sack Steve Bruce. And I was never one of them that sort of bought this Newcastle. You know what Newcastle fans are like? They love a bit of hysteria, don't they? They love a bit of a whinge. And I think the further north you go, the more you're aware of that, and the funnier it becomes. I've never had an issue with Newcastle or Newcastle fans, but oh god, they love them on, don't they? But I do think they'll sack Steve Bruce soon. I'm surprised he's still here now. I thought they'll get beat off Leeds, and they'll sack him. And it made me laugh, actually. They put a tweet out today. I don't know if you saw it. It said sort of official confirmation, and the Premier League retweeted it, and I've got Premier League on notifications. That's why I saw it. It said official confirmation. I'm like, they've sat Bruce here. They were just someone else had been added to the first team coaching staff. Or like their fans will be fuming at that. They brought
in someone else to help him. I think they don't want to sack him because he'll cost too much money.
Is that the case? Well, maybe. I would think that they would sack him. However, if you might know more in terms of the money than me, but you would think if the Premier League status is on the line, then they'll sack him anyway. And I think as the run goes on, it's getting worse and worse. They're in massive danger of going down now. Of course they are. I can't see them catching us at the minute, but like I said, I think they will act, and I think they'll sack Steve Bruce. But then, who did they bring in? I'm not sure.
Yeah, because their owner's quite stingy, let's say. So I wouldn't be surprised if he'd rather put in kind of contingency plans in terms of bringing another coach who, if they sack Steve Bruce, they can probably just make that coach the interim manager or something. Because in terms of, from what I've heard about their owner, what's his name again? I can't remember his name, but yeah, I know a lot of Newcastle fans hate their owner and obviously were very upset.
Yeah, Mark Ashley, innit?
Yeah, Mark Ashley, that's it. They were very upset about the deal not going through. And I don't know. This is an interesting thing.
Yeah, I was thinking that they might, because I saw a thing recently, Mark Hughes was saying he's ready to get back into management.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was thinking they might go for Mark Hughes because it's a very Mark Hughes club, Newcastle, at the moment.
I don't know how well that'll go down sacking. I know the obvious reasons why they don't like Bruce is obviously the Sunderland kind of connections, but Mark Hughes, he's well past it, and I can't see you want someone to come in and inspire you, don't you? I don't think that there is anyone out there to do that apart from Rafa for Newcastle fans because they still adore him. I don't think Eddie Howe would be a good appointment. I don't rate Eddie Howe, to be honest. Spent all that money at Bournemouth and still got relegated. So not a fan. I can't see him doing too well. I think the club as well, and obviously Eddie Howe came to Burnley for a bit, and that's not why I don't like him. He did a good job at Burnley. I respected him for the job he did at Burnley, but I think what he's done at Bournemouth was quite poor. But he left Burnley to go back to Bournemouth after already being at Bournemouth because he wanted to be further down south. So I can't see him going up to Newcastle because that's as north as you can possibly go without being in Scotland. So I can't see him going there. But yeah, it's interesting to see what they do over the next few weeks because if they carry on sliding, they're going to go down.
Well, Rafa possibly might be going to Celtic, right? I think
that has been ruled out.
Yesterday, Monday.
Yeah, no, I think that's been ruled out. He is available, but he's looking at other options. So it's not. He doesn't want to go.
Look at Newcastle, do you think?
And I think he's ruled that out under the current ownership. We would have to change owner for him to do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, Lampard might go Celtic, but
that would be so kind of
That'd be class, wouldn't it?
Yeah, imagine Gerard
Lampard up in Scotland. That'd be class.
In the Scottish League.
I might actually start paying attention to the Scottish League if that happens.
I think that would bring a lot of eyes to it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested. Obviously, I think I spoke to you yesterday, Ben, about the Lampard sacking. I don't think I'm quite comprehended it yet. Like, I haven't quite sunk in because obviously it just kind of it didn't come out of nowhere, but it came at a time where we thought we were fine, kind of. We thought
I think it's what you were saying. You were feeling that you were finally trying something different.
Yeah.
And like you wanted to try something different, but obviously they're not.
Because on the podcast, I've been speaking to Ben about trying a 4-4-2. Lampard trying a 4-4-2. He should do it with Werner playing off of Giroud or Abraham, and he did it I think he did it at least at some point in all of the last 4 games, and it worked. And then he got sacked. So I was a bit like, brilliant. And my dad thinks that he shouldn't have got the job in the first place.
Really. Yeah, there is that argument. And I remember at the time when you appointed Frank saying, I understand why you've done it to the club legend status, but it didn't have enough experience for a job like Chelsea. Like people, it's a similar sort of vibe here at Burnley, like to a lesser extent, because obviously Joey Barton was a manager of Fleetwood, Michael Duss, the manager of Cheltenham, obviously Derby County are a bigger club than both of them and in higher league and stuff like that. So obviously I understand that. But it's a similar sort of thing here. Like people always say, if Dash gets sacked, I'd like Joey Barton to come in. And I'm always saying he's not got enough experience. And it'd be the same for Chelsea. Sure, you need a club like Chelsea, if you want to be knocking on the door of the Premier League and winning titles and winning Champions Leagues again, or at least challenging for them, you're going to need a world-class manager. And it's the same with every top 4 club, top 6 club, really. So I understand that side of it. I don't think he should have got the job in the first place, but I don't see the point in bringing him in, throwing all that money at him, and then as soon as there's a bit of a bad patch, getting rid of him. Like I like to use the example of United and Ole. It's a similar sort of thing. Club legend, barely enough experience. There were chances where they could have sacked him, and in Chelsea's case, they probably would have done, but they've stuck by him. And now, I don't think they'll win the league. I don't think they're good enough. But now, they are starting to see the rewards. And I think Chelsea could have come out the other side of it if they tried, maybe give him another season, something like that. Because United had a poor season under Ole. I think they finished 6th or something like that. And Chelsea finished 9th a couple of seasons ago as well anyway. So obviously you've done it anyway. So I'd have given him more time personally, but I do see the argument of shouldn't have got it in the first place as well.
Yeah. That's why I'm slightly worried that maybe he was brought in to always be sacked the instant he had a bad period. That's what I'm worried about. Well, not worried about. I think that could be the case because why the instant, like it's literally, I think it was like the 8th of December we were top of the league, and then he's sacked on, what was it, the 25th of January he's sacked. So it's why I debate in my head, like, was he actually was it kind of we need a manager, no one's going to take the job. Lampard, if we ask him, is going to definitely take the job.
Yeah,
if it goes well, he does well. If it doesn't, we can always replace him and he'll do well with the youth players. That's kind of probably their thinking.
He probably thought he couldn't refuse that job. And also, like you say, in terms of the way the board at Chelsea works, that those worries that you have, they might be true, that the board were thinking we can get him in, he'll be manager for a season, bit goes a bit bad, we'll sack him, and then we'll get the person we actually want. And that's not really fair to a club legend. But like whether that is what the board was actually thinking or not, we'll never know. But the fact that you have those worries shows how the board is at Chelsea.
Definitely. Well, I guess we'll see what happens at 6:00 this evening against Wolves.
Yeah.
Should we do a quick score prediction? We do a score prediction for the Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Arsenal games because we have another show we do on Sundays with Chelsea fan me, City fan Ben, and then our 2 mates who are Liverpool Arsenal fans. Do you want to be involved in that, Joe? Go on.
Yeah, I'll be up for that.
All right. Let's get my notes up. Currently, Ben hasn't predicted a single game yet. He's on 0 points. So
I thought we already predicted this game was.
What?
Have we already predicted this one?
Yeah, no, I'm getting Ben's. Sorry, Joe's. I'm getting Joe's. So Fab predicted 2-2. Cam predicted 2-2. I predicted 2-1. You predicted 2-1. Joe, what are you going with?
Which game is this? Chelsea Wolves.
Chelsea Wolves, yeah.
Oh, both teams out of form. Chelsea new manager bounced though. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
Ooh, keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, why not? Wolves have been poor this season. Like I said, we kept a clean sheet against them. Our defence is a very good defence, if you ask me, though. So, yeah, I just think new manager bounce. You see it happen all the time. That you'll come in, get a few results, hopefully not at the weekend, obviously, and then push on, really. But, yeah, new manager bounce for me today.
Should we actually get your prediction for the Saturday game as well, for the Burnley versus Chelsea game? I just want to, because obviously you are a Burnley fan, it'd be good to get your vote.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's at Chelsea, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, we've already played you at the turf and you murdered us. And it's going to be a tough game. I'll probably say, I think it'll be tight. Burnley always keep it tight, but I think eventually you'll still be on a new manager bounce. And if my first prediction is correct, off the back of a win against Wolves, so I'm going to go 1-0 Chelsea.
Not even backing your own side.
I will never back them when they're away at one of the top six because we never really win there. But obviously we're just beating Liverpool, beating Arsenal already this season as well. So we could be on for a historic treble.
So if you want to change, just let me know.
You know what? If you still had Lampard, I'd probably go for a Burnley win or a draw, a battling point. But it happens all the time. New manager bounce. Even Ollie had that bounce when he came in. Then he was obviously poor for nearly a couple of seasons. But I think you'll have it, and then you might level out later in the season. But I think yeah, new manager bounce. But I don't know. I'm still going to go 1-0, but I'm just sort of like thinking about the new gaffer and stuff. It might take time to adjust, maybe. But no, I think he'll come in, have the new manager bounce, then that adjustment period will come when you start leveling out, I think.
Fair enough. Well, we've also done predictions for Spurs versus Liverpool, and one of our hosts is also a Liverpool fan. So do you want to throw in your piece on that?
Is it at the Lane then?
Yes, at White Hart Lane. Well, it's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium now.
Yeah, sorry, we can't call it White Hart Lane, can we? Until they get some sponsorship deal. That's a tough one, that one. I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1. Oh, okay. That's the same as Cam and Ben, who also went 1-1. I went for a 1-0 Spurs win, and Fab who's the Liverpool fan, went for a 2-1 Liverpool win. Okay, that's good. We'll tweet that out, and I'm sure you'll see that. We do keep score, but currently no guests have predicted a game yet, so they aren't involved.
Well, hopefully I can get one right then, yeah. If I get one right, I can be the first guess, and there's no shame in not getting one right then.
I've not got one right yet, but I predict who's going to win right, but I never get the score right.
Yeah, I'm like that on Super 6 all the time. Yeah. I get a lot of results right, but I never get a lot of scores right.
Yeah.
Well, we've also got a thing going where we predicted the FA Cup winners, and whoever gets that correct gets 5 points. But we did it not the Sunday that just happened. The Sunday beforehand, we did the predictions, and we weren't allowed to pick our own teams, of course. And Fab picked Arsenal, and then they got knocked out straight away.
Yeah, of course.
And then obviously Liverpool got knocked out as well, which was quite funny.
Well, I'm looking forward. I think we've got a good chance here this season, FA Cup, because we haven't played City yet, which is a running joke amongst Burnley fans. I don't know if City fans have also noticed, but every single season we get City in some cup. It's so infuriating. Even the other season, we didn't get City in the third round, and it was like, oh, we didn't get City. And then we beat whoever we played it third round, got City at fourth round. It was like, for God's sake, City put 5 past us like they do every single time. I'll probably call City for that reason. I'm quietly confident we will beat Bournemouth, but the last time we were in a 5th round FA Cup game and I will go into the turf feeling very confident. We played Lincoln City and it became one of the most embarrassing days as a Burnley fan. So I'm gonna go City to win it, but I think we'll get to quarterfinals, which, depending on the draw, we have a good chance of the semis, which, in the current climate also breaks my heart, because Burnley get to the semi-finals of the FA Cup for the first time in my life and I won't be able to go. What's all that about?
That's like how Leeds got promoted and then didn't get ever.
Yeah, that's funny when it happens to Leeds, isn't it? It's not funny when it happens to Burnley. And Liverpool as well, of course.
Of course.
But having said that, obviously Leeds fans couldn't go. I work in Leeds. And I don't know if any of you know the Northwestern Yorkshire very well, but the M621 goes straight past the Ellen Road Stadium, and I have to go past the M621 to go into the city centre of Leeds to come off later on. And it was the day that they'd won the league. I had to go into work, and I was driving past, and all lights were on Ellen Road, and I could hear like loads of like a small like humming sound like in the distance. Got to the bit where you can look straight down the street up to Ellen Road. There's loads of Leeds. I saw Luke Ayling like that with cup on team bus, and all Leeds fans were just thousands of them just there on streets. At local council were just like, yeah, so what? We've been promoted. We're going to do it. And but everyone were kicking off saying coronavirus and all that stuff, and they just didn't care. I thought fair play, but no way Burnley Council would do that. Burnley Council had packed themselves and wouldn't do anything. If we want FA Cup, you won't hear anything about it in Burnley. You won't be like out to houses. I just thought fair play to him. But yeah, I walking to work that day as well. So I park at one side at the city centre and walk to the other side because I'm a stingy gear and I'm not paying £6 for parking. There's Leeds fans everywhere, and I just thought, yeah, fair play. Because if Burnley want FA Cup, that's the first thing I'd do. I'd be sat outside Park View if I can't get much of the pub. Obviously, I should have explained that beforehand. If I can't get in, I'll just buy loads of tinnies and sit on benches outside and pretend I'm drinking at Park View, something like that. So yeah, fair play to him. I'm presuming there'll be stories like that with Liverpool fans as well in Liverpool, but obviously, working in Leeds, I didn't see him.
Well, fair enough. Well, should we get into your history of Burnley?
Yeah, we can do.
Brilliant. Well, we start off with the simple one. What was your first game live and on the TV that you can remember?
I don't live on the TV. I don't know. Even going, I don't know, to be honest with you. Sorry to give a very poor answer, but the stories of me is I've been going on the turf ever since I was a baby. My dad tells me the stories that up until I was 4 years old, he didn't have to pay for me. He just used to take me on, and he just used to lift me over the turnstiles. Then he'd give his ticket in, and then get on the game. But then the last day of the season, when I was about 4 years old, so about 1992, some guy turned around to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing? You're going to have to pay for him as well." So he paid for me, and then the season after, I've had a season ticket. I don't remember any specific games, but I do remember being on the old long side, which was knocked down in 1996. What we used to always do, because obviously it's an old terrace sort of stand, so no seats. What we used to always do, showing me age a bit here, what we used to always do is we'd get like a drinks carton at half time, and my dad would buy one for like 10p, whatever they were. And after you drank them, you'd squash them. So all kids from the long side would all go and stand at the front and stand at the front and play football in the football stadium and not actually watch the game. So you'd be playing football on the steps, kicking the cartons around and trying to score goals in these fake nets between these two poles, and not actually watch the game. And I used to always remember, like again, it's not a specific game, but when Burnley scored, I'd always miss it because I'd be playing football, but I'd know we scored because all the adults would just run forward, and they'd run forward and just barges all out the way and stuff like that, and just all jump on fence and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm showing my age a bit there. But in terms of one specific game I do remember is the playoff final in 1995, and I remember it because I didn't go. My dad wanted to take me. My mum wouldn't let him because we were on a family holiday in Butlins. So he went, and I remember watching it on some sort of like Poxy TV in like a Butlins family room or something, and getting promoted. And my dad come back. My dad was at Butlins with us at a family holiday. And if I do this now, there's no way I'd... Well, first of all, if my dad ever listens to this, he's an idiot for allowing my mum to book a holiday at that time. I wouldn't even get to that stage if my missus were like, "We're going to book a holiday on the FA Cup final day." Right now, I'd be like, no chance. So, or I'd just turn around and say, "I'm not going." But anyway, my dad hitched a lift all the way to London from Skegness, Butlins Skegness, which I think is South Wales. I'm not sure if that's correct. I don't know. Hitchhiked all the way there. Apparently found some Burnley fans just outside Butlins and then got a lift all the way there. And I remember my dad getting back at night and then putting me on my shoulders and running around Butlins, and I had a big Burnley flag waving it like that. So I don't remember any specific games apart from that one, but that's because I was going on the game since before my memories probably started forming, really.
Cool. What would you say your favourite ever game is then?
There's two. 25th of May 2009, which until my son was born was easily the best day of my life. And I'm only saying that because I have to. It's probably still the best day of my life. We beat Sheffield United in the playoff final to get promoted to Wembley. And growing up as a Burnley fan, like I said, I'm 32 now, so I was born in 1988. And at the time, Burnley were in Division 4, which is obviously now League 2. Now, I don't really remember that well. if at all. But when I was growing up, we were in sort of like the mid to late 90s is my sort of like early years. I remember the club, and we were in Division 2, which is now League One. And I never thought for one day I'd ever see Burnley in the Premier League. Like it would just, and look at us now as well. We've even been in Europe or at the qualifiers for Europe, but I'm still counting it. And I never thought we'd have got to that stage. And I never thought I'd have gone to Olympiakos to watch Burnley play a competitive match, the most decorated club in the history of Greece. So that's that one, the Wembley playoff final where Wade Elliott scored an absolute screamer. The other one's beating Blackburn for the first time in my life. Like, I think people outside of East Lancashire don't realise how much hatred there is. It's not just about football either. It goes back all the way to the cotton days in the 1800s and stuff. Because round here we used to manufacture cotton. You can still see all the mills and stuff across Burnley and Blackburn. It's just, I hate everything about the town. I hate everything about the football club and everyone born it. Even my missus, she doesn't like football, but she works in Blackburn and she always gives them grief because they're from Blackburn. It's just deep rooted into us all. We all hate each other. And Blackburn, all my life, they won the Premier League in 1995, and I was 6 or 7 around that time. And I do remember it. I remember being at front page at Burnley, not Burnley Express, front page at Sun, front page of all newspapers, on the telly. Blackburn fans, you saw it, like people giving you grief, and we never played them at any point. The first time we played them in my life was the year 2000, and then I was 12. I think that's why people don't realise how much hatred there is. It's because we just don't play each other. We very rarely play each other. And in the year 2000, they beat us at Turf 2-0, then beat us at Ewood Park 5-0, and then every time we've played them until then, in the year 2009, they beat us 3-2 at Ewood and 1-0 at the Turf. So they just always had the better of us. And then for a few seasons, we had a few 1-1s. And the game before the one where we finally won, we were winning 1-0. And David Dunn scored an offside 97th minute equaliser, even though they're only 4 minutes of added time. And then he celebrated like he won World Cup, even though he scored an illegal goal in illegal time. And honestly, like, I was devastated, and I hope a Blackburn fan never sees this, because that, honestly, there's been 2 times where I've been absolutely heartbroken on a match. Only once when I've cried, and it wasn't this one. That was Roman Pavlyuchenko's goal in 2009 in the League Cup semi-final, and that David Dunn goal. But a year after that, they went 1-0 up at Ewood Park. I can't remember who scored, I don't care. Then about 10, 15 minutes later, Jason Shackle scored a header. And then 80-odd minute, 70-odd minute, ball bobbling around in their box, force of Danny Ings, smash, bottom corner, absolute delirium. Honestly, I've never felt out like it. So I've got 2 Burnley mugs, and one of them says Burnley 1, Sheffield United 0 on it. The other one says Blackburn 1, Burnley 2 on it. So they're the only 2 mugs I've got as well. So they're definitely my 2 favourite games. I couldn't pick between them 2. If I was held at gunpoint, I'd probably just about choose the playoff final, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I might have mentioned this before, Tom, but I did used to play for Blackburn Rovers Academy.
All
right. They used to go on about the Burnley rivalry,
all the local lads,
like non-stop. And I'm from Manchester. I was like, I knew they were. It was a derby, but I didn't realise like how much of a rival they were. Like even the games, like the academy games against Blackburn and Burnley, they were like, right, we've got to win this one.
Yeah, well, obviously, I never played at that level, but I used to play. I went to a college. If you're from sort of like around here, you might be aware of it. It's called Myerscough. Right. And they have like an outlet, whatever it's called, in Burnley, and they had one in Blackburn as well. And we used to wear the Burnley kits when we played our games, played against all the other colleges in the area, and they used to wear Blackburn kits. And again, similar thing when we both played against each other. Honestly, blood was shed every single game, bones were broken every single game. People were flying into tackles, including myself. I remember once I was on the bench for one of the games, and we're playing in an indoor arena. They did this like weird 5-a-side, 6-a-side, 7-a-side tournament, whatever it were, and you could see from the bench like inside. We were inside, but like this glass perspex window over it. And I remember this Burnley lad had the ball, and this Blackburn lad just came running into him, his shoulder, smacked him right in the face, and he went down like that, and we couldn't see him because it was that bit of like a wooden thing, like a brick, so we couldn't see him. And obviously with perspex glass, I could just see his head. And as he got up, I'd sat back down and he had blood all over his hands. He just wiped it on the glass like that. There's these big 2 palms of blood on the glass. So yeah, it's one of only 2 games I think left in the country where they do the bubble travel thing, so they don't allow fans to go to the ground themselves, away fans. So if you're a Burnley fan living in Blackburn and Burnley playing Blackburn, what you have to do, you go to the club shop, you get a ticket for the Blackburn game, but they don't give you a ticket for the game. They give you a ticket for a coach. So then what you have to do, if you live in Blackburn, you have to leave Blackburn to go to Turf Moor to present your ticket to the bus driver or coach driver, who then says, yep, there's your ticket for the match. They don't let you go to the game. And I think there's only 2 games left in the country that's like that. It's Burnley Blackburn and Chester Wrexham, weirdly enough. I think there's one more off the top of my head.
I think it'd be something to do with Millwall, wouldn't it?
It might be, actually, yeah, it could be, but yeah, like everyone sort of like realizes how much hatred there is between West Ham and Millwall. It's exactly the same with Burnley Blackburn. Honestly, it is. It just doesn't get as much press, probably because they're not from London and they don't play each other very much. But yeah, it's deep rooted. Like my missus works at Blackburn Hospital, and she gives them stick, and she don't even like football. I'm watching football, she don't care, but when she goes to work, she just has to give them stick. It's just what you do around here.
Yeah. It's both very historic clubs as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like, I think it's like 18 whatever.
Well, obviously both founding members of the Football League as well, and both like big parts in the cotton industry back in the 1800s, which everybody works in the cotton industry back in the 1800s. There were cotton mills all over East Lancashire. And I think then like one of the towns would be doing better in terms of production or whatever, and they probably had farts over that for all I know. But yeah, it's like I say, it's a deep rooted hatred.
Fair enough. Well, I didn't realise actually how deep rooted that was. So that's something I've learned today. What, in your opinion, are your 5 favourite Burnley players of all time?
Ooh, of all time, I'll only choose my lifetime then. I don't think it's fair to me to gauge an opinion on Jimmy McIlroy, who would be the greatest ever Burnley player, Brian Miller, because I wasn't alive. So if there's any like older clarets watching this and as a going for not selecting Jimmy McIlroy or Frank Casper, that's why, or Jimmy Adamson, that's why. My favourite, it's probably got to be Robbie Blake. I love Robbie Blake. He was a Burnley legend. The only stuff that I used to annoy me about Robbie Blake is he left to go to Leeds, and then he scored against us. He scored a free kick against us, and then the Leeds fans would sing our Robbie Blake song, which I'm going to say hurt me, but I won't say hurt me. It annoyed me a lot. Robbie Blake's up there. I'd say he's probably number 1. Wade Elliott number 2 for scoring that playoff final goal. I'll probably go with sort of like Joey Barton number 3. If anything, Joey Barton probably number 2. Actually, I love Joey Barton, absolute legend. I know he gets a lot of stick from fans of other clubs that he's never played for.
Yeah, I know my dad didn't used to like him.
Yeah, he's honestly, I love him. I absolutely love him. Yeah, he's a Burnley legend as well. I absolutely love him. Funny story, I once saw him. I was in Marseille for the Euros in 2016, and obviously Joey used to play for Marseille. And he was out there doing punditry work apparently, but we just checked in. We've all been supping beers on his flat and on his coach and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't say half cut, but I was fully gone. We checked into his room or whatever apartment. I didn't do anything because I was too drunk. And I walked outside the apartment and I focused, and I said to my mate, I went, "Is that Joey Barton or just someone that looks like him?" And he'd gone, "Okay, that is Joey Barton," and he runs up to him. He's taking loads of pictures. So I've got a picture of me in Marseille drunk. So like cuddling Joey Barton like that. But yeah, I turned around to him and went, "Oh yeah, you used to play for Marseille, don't you?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm doing punditry for French TV. They've asked me out here." And I said to him, "Are you going to do that silly French accent again?" And he just turned around and he was like, "Oh, it was just one of them things, mate. It was just one of them things that you don't realise you're doing it at the time." Because I did say to him after that, because I packed my pants, I thought, "What are you doing, Joe?" And I said, "So what happened with that? What happened with that? Why did you do it?" And he sort of like explained, like I said, and sort of like said, "Steve McLaren did it in Holland as well, if you remember." And I do remember. But yeah, he was a Burnley legend, not just because of that meeting, but he was class, he was a leader, exactly what we needed in the year we won the championship. Another one has got to be Tom Eaton from that season. He's probably up there as well. He's the captain of the team that season. He's a Burnley legend, he always will be. It was a shame he left to go to Villa, but I agreed with the decision at the time to give Nick Pope the number 1 jersey, and I think, you know, we've been proven right, and that the lad for me is world class and should be England's number 1 goalkeeper. But that's a different debate.
I've said that many times.
Yeah, he's so much better than Pickford. Pickford is better at passing. That is literally it. But I know Southgate likes defenders, Mings as well, who pass out and goalkeepers. But Pope will catch a cross, he will save a shot, whereas Pickford won't do that. But yeah, Tom Eaton, and who could be the fifth? I'm gonna go Glenn Little. He's another one from back in the day when we were getting promoted from Division 2 in the year 2000. He tore teams inside out. That guy, he was brilliant. He was he was sort of like Dwight McNeil. How Dwight McNeil is now, but obviously nowhere near as good because we were playing in Division 2. But that style of player, he'd get the ball and he'd run at defenders and he'd take them on, twist and turn it, and he could score some goals as well. He scored the goal at Scunthorpe where we won promotion to Division 2. Another game where we went 1-0 down and came back and won 2-1. But yeah, that'll probably be my five then. Robbie Blake, Joey Barton, in no particular order, by the way. Robbie Blake, Joey Barton, Tom Eaton, Glenn Little, and who else did I say? Wade Elliott. There you go.
Fantastic.
So what would you say, because you spoke about earlier, the earliest memory is when your dad went to that game and then came back of Burnley, or do you have a memory earlier than that?
No, that's probably it. Like I said, the memory of me kicking empty cans of pop on the long side will be an earlier one than that. So, but in terms of like an actual match experience, it's probably that, because obviously in the memory, the only part of the memory that is a match experience of the ones kicking cans on the front of the long side is the fact that I was on the long side, and I don't remember anything about the football. I have weird memories of sort of like standing on the top of the long side and waiting for the ref to blow the whistle, because my dad used to work in a pub right next to the ground. So but I also used to live right next to the ground, and the house and the pub was literally next to each other. So my dad had sort of like drag me home as quick as he could, throw me in house, get his shirt on and go straight for his shift at the Park View. So I kind of remember doing that. I remember walking through the other old stand, the be-all end, when the long side were too full to get home quicker. But yeah, they're sort of like my earliest memories, really.
Fair enough. That's kind of, I think you have earlier memories than I do of Chelsea, to be honest. And I'm younger, so that's pretty impressive.
It's weird. I don't remember any specific games though. Like I don't remember any. Like I say, I just remember playing football on the front of the stand, which is something you won't get to do these days. I'm not going to go full OAP on you and go, "Oh, back in my day, it were better." But that's something that you won't get to do these days. But I don't remember any specific games, unfortunately.
Oh, fair enough. Well, do you remember any specific goals that are your favourite?
Wade Elliott at Wembley, Danny Ings at Blackburn. My favourite goal of all time, and probably one of the best atmospheres I've ever been involved in, was 2009 again, playoff semi-final. We played Reading at the Turf, won 1-0 thanks to a Graham Alexander penalty. Andre Briquet brought him down, definite red card, definite pen, and got sent off. Ripped his shirt off, threw it on the ground in sheer frustration because he was that angry at getting sent off. And when we got promoted, we ended up signing him, so he played in Premier League anyway. But in the away leg, like Reading were a very good side that season. Like just to put it into context, I think they were third for the majority of this season, knocking on the door of the top two, fell away and ended up finishing fourth. We finished fifth. But everyone were like Reading the clear favourites. They should have gone up automatically. So we went to the Medeski with a slim 1-0 lead, and I was nervous as hell. And for the entirety of the first half, it was 0-0, and they were the better side. We played a lot different sort of football back then. Everyone sort of like sees Burnley like we've always been under Sean Dyche and being compact and just defend. But Owen Coyle, who ended up being a Judas prick, he played a different sort of style of football and went forward. But it was 0-0 and Reading had the better of it. And then its second half, it was just, honestly, Reading kind of sat off us a little bit and they started to sit back. I think they were scared of conceding a goal. And Martin Patterson picked the ball up just on the halfway line and started sort of like edging towards the Reading goal. And honestly, they had two banks of four back. They were set up perfectly. That were right, break us down. Martin Patterson must have been, 30, 35, maybe pushing 40 yards out. I just thought, oh, fuck it, I'm going to hit it and nothing else. And honestly, it just flew into the top corner. Like it was easily the best goal I've ever seen live. It was just insane. And then the roof came off. It was just all that relief of like, I'm so nervous here of like, we're actually going to do it here. And then And then the lads celebrated, and literally 5 minutes later, we scored again. Another cracker, Stephen Thompson, nowhere near as good as Martin Patterson's, but a half volley, looping, boring in. And who hit net for them then? A decent goalkeeper, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But he was a decent goalkeeper, and he got done by two really, really good goals. But that Martin Patterson one, definitely my favourite goal, because when that hit the back of the net, I started to believe. The atmosphere was insane. The atmosphere was that good. The Burnley chant was echoing back at us. We could hear our chant echoing back at us off the Medeski Stadium. It was just insane. But yeah, definitely that Martin Patterson goal. I'm sort of getting nostalgic thinking about it now. If you get some time, the footage isn't great, but see if you can find some footage of it on YouTube. Honestly, it's an insane goal, absolutely insane.
Well,
definitely check that out.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this before as well, but how would you say the season is going for Burnley at the moment?
First half of it was pretty poor. I say the first half of what we've done already, pretty poor. Defeats at home to Southampton. All right, they went on to do quite well in the league this season, but a defeat away at Newcastle. I have this memory of being on when lockdown kind of unlifted, and then we all got to do things again normally for a bit. We were playing a bit of football at a park around here. And some of the lads were we're definitely going down. We've had such a bad start to this season. We had 1 point after 6 games or something. We were really, really bad. And I remember saying look, we're in this position a few seasons ago in the Europa, the season after the Europa League season, because we were trying to recover from doing the Sunday, Thursday, where we had a bad start. I said, we'll come good. And we've done exactly that. We've come good. First half of it was very, very poor, but then you've got to look at what we've done so far. We've beaten Wolves, we've beaten Arsenal, we've beaten Liverpool. I'm still a little bit worried, but I think you can look at the season in 2 parts. The first half of the season, as I've said, we were poor, but we had James Tarkowski missing and Ben Mee. Everyone knows Burnley are a solid defensive unit, and James Tarkowski came back as soon as that interest from Leicester cooled, and his injured ego recovered. Everybody says it were an ankle injury apparently, but I don't buy it for 1 second. And then a few games after that, Ben Mee came back, and then that's when the results start to pick up, because we can keep clean sheets again now. Whereas with Kevin Long and Jimmy Dunn at the back, we just weren't keeping any clean sheets. So first half of it was poor. Second half is coming into our own, and hopefully we can do what we did last season, where we had a bit of a slow start, not as bad as this one. But then we still finished 10th and finished in the top half. So fingers crossed we can do that again. But I think there's a lot of good sides this season who finished below us last season and who have spent money and who are doing well this season. So your Villas, Everton's, West Ham's, and even Leeds. Obviously, they were in the Championship last season, but they have come up and spent money and started doing well. So we'll struggle to finish in the top 10, but I think that's got to be our aim, hopefully, if we can avoid relegation anyway.
Fair enough. Well, we've spoken about your past, your present, and now kind of the future. What do you think the future of Burnley holds?
Well, we're at kind of a crossroads at the minute. I know you've mentioned it already. We've talked about the new owners. So it depends on what happens with these new owners. I think the club can go from strength to strength. There's no reason why we can't. I know neutrals always sort of see us as a smaller club, even to teams like Brighton and Watford, which I'll always contest against. If you look at our history compared to theirs, I think the only thing that Watford have in their favour is that they're from London, and the only thing that Brighton have in their favour is a shiny new stadium, and they actually spend money. But yeah, I don't see why we can't push on and be seen as a club that deserves to be in the Premier League. I think that's one of the things that frustrates me the most. I'll say the same thing I say when I'm invited on every single person's podcast is, I know Twitter isn't exactly the best place to gauge people's football's opinions, but when you see all these stupid accounts like Fabulous Fabinho and, Magnificent Marnie and all that sort of stuff, they all say the same thing. Get Burnley out the Premier League, sick of them, they don't deserve to be in the Premier League. I want that attitude in people to change. I want people to think we deserve to be in the, because obviously we deserve to be in the Premier League. We won the Championship and we won it only losing 5 games, going on a 23 unbeaten run. Wolves haven't done that. They've won the league recently. Villa haven't done that. I think they finished second when they they won the playoffs, didn't they? And Leeds, who won the league, they haven't done it recently as well. So of course we deserve to be in the Premier League. The fact we've stayed up year on year, finished 7th, finished 10th. So I want that attitude to change, but I'm not really sure how we do that, really, to be honest, because that's kind of an external factor, isn't it? I think the best thing would be to regenerate the turf, make it look nice, rather than... I think the problem with the turf is the camera's in the good stand. So it's looking at the 2 crap stands. So people just think, the stand, which annoys me because I always use Blackburn as an example, that they have got 3 decent stands and 1 terrible stand. What they used to have the cameras on the good stand, and same sort of vibe, you could see the rubbish stand. And what they've done now, they've moved it so you can see the 3 good stands. So now people look at Ewa Park on telly and stuff and think, that's a nice ground. So I think we could do with thinking about stuff like that a bit more and stuff like that. But that, I don't know. That's what I'm saying in terms of like a crossroads where we don't really know what's going to happen because of that. But that's what I want to happen. I want us to become a bit more marketable, a bit more well-liked. And the one thing I haven't seen Burnley do now, I've seen them beat Manchester United, I've seen them beat Chelsea, City, I've seen them in the Premier League, I've seen them in Europe. The one thing I haven't seen them do is win a trophy. And I know it's a big ask. I know it is. Because people always still have this thought process that big clubs don't take the cup and the League Cup seriously, the FA Cup and the League Cup seriously. But all you have to do is look at who's won both of these competitions over the last 10 years, and that proves that that theory wrong. So with the likes of City and Chelsea and United, obviously, and Liverpool and Tottenham and Arsenal always wanting to win these trophies, it's going to be difficult. But Liverpool are out this season. Arsenal are out this season now. So, we're in the 5th round, playing Bournemouth at home. It's a favourable tie, so who knows, it could be this year. But yeah, I want us to be better thought of, and people think we deserve to be in the Premier League, and I want us to win a trophy. That's what I want for the future anyway.
That's very nice. That's, I guess, what all fans can ask for, really.
Yeah.
We've gone so far through this podcast, and Ben hasn't frozen, and finally he's frozen. Oh, he's back. Is he back?
I'm back.
He's back.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I don't know, but I would think Tom is the same, but I would say my opinion is that Burnley do deserve to be in the Prem because they're a very solid team.
Yeah.
You know, every time you play Burnley, it's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be difficult to break down. They're going to be a threat on the counter. So,
that's a Chelsea and Man City nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, not Man City when we go to the Etihad. That's another running joke in Burnley. Every single year it's 5-0. And you know what? If you forfeit a game, I think the rules are you lose 3-0. So we would be better off forfeiting the game at the Etihad. We would just be better off in terms of goal difference. But yeah, I know, like I said, Twitter's not the best place to gauge opinion, especially all these football Twitter accounts. When I speak to people like yourselves, like-minded people like me who have podcasts, who do streams and stuff like that, they say pretty much what you just said, Ben. I would deserve to be in the league and stuff. I think the problem with it is all these like massive streamers, like is it Goldbridge, the United fan, he fuels these fires. You know what I mean? And then these sort of like little keyboard warriors go, "Oh, I hate Burnley." Everyone, these sort of people, like they expect us to go to City and just open up and say, right.
Yeah.
We know that you might struggle to break us down. So what we're going to do is we're going to not play that way. We're going to open up. We're going to make it easy for you to break us down. And I feel like there's a narrative been written in recent years. I feel like people are trying to turn us into the new Stoke because everyone's started to hate Stoke as well. And then what happened with Stoke I think that narrative got to them and they tried to change their style of play. Then they got relegated. So fingers crossed, obviously we don't do that. But yeah, we deserve to be in the Premier League. We're a decent-sized club. People always, again, just sort of like think, small club. I think, again, because we're in the Premier League and, of course, we're playing against huge clubs like Liverpool, United and stuff like that. But if you look at the history, we've won the league title twice. Teams like Crystal Palace, Watford, Brighton have never done that. We've won the FA Cup. Again, I don't think any of them 3 clubs have done it. Apologies if they have, but I know they've never won the league. And one stat I always like to remind people of is people see Leeds as a massive club. And don't get me wrong, I think it's the fan base that makes people that gives people the opinion that Leeds are a big club. Now I work in Leeds, so I don't hate Leeds like a lot of people do, and I don't really get the Burnley fans hating Leeds because it's like an hour away. Like you don't hate Stoke, which is also an hour away. So why do you hate Leeds? So I don't mind Leeds. To me, they're just another club. But Burnley have been in the top division in England for more seasons than Leeds have. But yeah, everybody just presumes that Leeds are a far bigger and more illustrious club, whereas it's just not the case. They've won, I think, 1 league title more than us, maybe 2. I think they've won 3 league titles. Well, like I said, we've won 2. So they're not as big as people think they are. But I think my counter argument to that is we're not as small as people think we are.
I mean, yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, even like say, that narrative about you being turned into the new Stoke. But there's some decent players in that Burnley squad. Like you say, Dwight McNeil, like he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's classy, Dwight McNeil. He's had a bit of a slow start this season, but against Liverpool and Fulham, it was magnificent. He was dropped for a bit, and he's back to his best now. So fingers crossed he can push on with that. But yeah, Nick Pope, he should be. I tell you what, if Nick Pope went to Chelsea, when there was rumours about him going to Chelsea, he would 100% be England's number one now. It's the same with James Tarkowski. He should, in my opinion, be in that England side. And his contract runs out in the summer. And Leicester are still interested. And I tell you now, you can mark it in your diary if you want to come back at me if I'm wrong. But I tell you now, as soon as he's played 5 games for that Leicester squad, when's the first international break? It's like we have one in September, don't we? On a normal season. Bet you any money if the season's back to normal next season and he goes to Leicester, I bet he's in the England squad for that September international break. Failing that, he'll be in it for the October ones, 100%. I'm saying he's 75% in it for the September ones, 100% in it for the October ones. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's just this thing where people don't get in the England side if they play for Burnley, but more for them because you're missing out on a quality goalkeeper and a quality defender there.
No, yeah, I remember when there was the rumours for Pope. Ben heard me say I wanted Pope badly. Really wanted Pope, but obviously...
Yeah, he's class. He really is good, isn't it, Pope?
Well, you've certainly sold Burnley pretty well in this podcast so far, mate. But yeah, do you want to speak about? Have you ever been interviewed about your YouTube career so far?
No, not really. I'd use the term career very, very loosely as well. I don't even have 300 subs yet, so yeah, I haven't been interviewed about it before. No.
Oh, well, this is nice always to be the first channel to do it. What we always ask this: what person or event kind of inspired you to get into doing these streams and stuff on YouTube?
Well, I work in the media. Like I used to be a football journalist. I covered things such as the England game at Ellen Road because I used to work for a radio station in Leeds. I've covered a Josh Warrington fight again at Ellen Road. I've covered Burnley games. I've covered, like I said, England games. So I've done quite a lot. And I've worked at newspapers. I've worked at TV stations in Liverpool. I worked in Liverpool for 3 years, which is where my weird hatred for Liverpool fans comes from because they are just a very, very weird bunch. Apologies to your friend who you do the Purple Show with. If he's not from Liverpool, then he won't have the same sort of like ideologies, but I just don't understand some of the stuff that they say and some of the stuff that they do. The Liverpool fans from Liverpool, that is. But then I was at that, like I said, I was at the radio station in Leeds, and I got made redundant, and I was pretty miffed off because I was 29, just about to turn 30. I had a little boy on the way, and I had a house to pay for, and it was like the 3rd or 4th time I've been made redundant before the age of 30. And everyone knows that journalism's sort of like a dying career. There's not as many jobs in it. And I just thought, I've had enough of this. So what I did, I went into sort of like media production, and now I work for bookmakers William Hill, sort of like doing their output when the shops are open in the shops. But at the minute we're doing it online. So sort of like doing graphics and stuff like that, and just basically playing around with sort of like broadcast software and stuff like that. So I did that for a job, and I started getting paid again, but I kind of missed doing the chatting about footy sort of stuff because there's only so many greyhound and horse races you can cover in a day before it starts getting a bit boring. But with football, obviously, it's my passion. I love it. I never really got bored of it. And there was only one other Burnley podcast, and it's a certain style of Burnley podcast. I'm not going to slag them off or anything. We are friends with the lads and lass at the other Burnley podcast. That we've done a podcast together. We interviewed Ian Wright early last year in March, where we did a podcast together. So they are good people, but I used to listen to their podcast as well, and I still do from time to time. But my sort of like radio shows when I was doing the radio were very sort of like different, where we swear on the podcast. I used to swear on the radio because we were allowed to, because it weren't on FM. If it's only on DAB or online, you're not done by these Ofcom broadcasting rules. Just don't say the F or the C word, apparently, which I never did, but we do say the F word on TurfCast. But yeah, we just sort of like have a laugh. We even just get pissed off at times. I mean, we did a We did a live. We weren't live, but we did a podcast at Man United last season, and I was smashed by full time because we did it. We're in my mate's an hairdresser, the other lad on the podcast, and he cuts Phil Jones at Manchester United. And he gave us his box in the Stretford end. So we're in his box in the Stretford end when Burnley beat United 2-0 last season. So we're getting free beers, free food. So I was smashed. And on the way home, we were doing like a podcast into the microphone and stuff like that. So I listened to theirs and thought there's a market out there for a not as serious, sort of like fun, vibey Burnley podcast. So then we started doing that. And then a year into the podcast, as I said earlier, lockdown hit, and then I got some time on his hands, we're going to start doing something different here. So we started recording the podcast, doing some watch-alongs, streaming, that sort of thing. And we have a watch-along in 1 hour and 15 minutes as well. I enjoy the watch-alongs. They are quite good, so I'm looking forward to it.
Fair enough. That kind of does answer one of our future questions in a bit, but we'll get to that.
No, it's good. It's good. Is this your first channel, or have you had others in the past? This is a question Tom puts in there.
This is my first personal channel. I've worked 4 channels. I used to work for a Leeds United one, weirdly enough, and this is where because I used to do like Leeds United content, and obviously it was a bit weird. Like I didn't sit here talking, going, "Oh, Leeds have got beat, I'm gutted." I didn't pretend I'm a Leeds fan or anything like that. It weren't that sort of vibe. Like I'd go and interview Marcelo Bielsa and things like that, and sit down and speak with him and do that sort of stuff. So I was doing that sort of content because, like I said, they were rights holders, this radio station that I used to work with, and they had once they lost their DAB license, or do you remember former Chelsea chairman Ken Bates? He owned the radio station, and then one day he just pulled the money out of it, so they couldn't afford to pay their DAB license. And it was like 6 months after that, they got maybe redundant. But anyway, they changed it to sort of like a streaming, sort of like podcasting sort of platform, and they had their own YouTube channel. So I did used to work for a Leeds United channel, but yeah, it was my job. It wasn't a personal channel.
Fair enough. Ben only says that because I've had a few channels in the past before this one.
He's had 5 at least.
That includes this one though. Okay, I was young and I've learned.
Oh, it doesn't. This is the 6th one, isn't it?
No, this is the 5th one.
All right. Okay.
I don't know how it makes such a difference, 5 or 6, but
well, it's one extra. It's one extra. Every channel counts.
Age of 14 though, so like obviously I wasn't.
Every channel counts.
I wasn't going to get it right first time though, was I?
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. It's fair enough.
And we seem to have maybe hit the nail on the head with this one. We'll see. I think this is the question that I said you probably just answered. But what's your favorite type of video to do? And also with that is what is your favorite ever video you've recorded on your channel?
Oh, favorite ever. I enjoyed the Liverpool watch along. That was good. Yeah, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think the watch along is my favorite because it's the only one we do live. I'm hoping to start to do more live stuff. But when you have a little boy, and a missus, it can be a little bit difficult to do a lot of stuff. Like I struggle to do how much I do now, and at half the time I'm quickly just doing an half an hour stream while she baths him, and something like that, and then I'll edit it later at night and stuff like that. So the watch alongs are my favourite. The best one, I enjoyed the Liverpool one. I'm going to go, the best one was, I interviewed Matt Lawton last year, in the summer last year in lockdown. That were good. He could have sat somewhere better because he was sat with a window right behind him, so you could just sort of like see his silhouette. But I didn't have the guts to turn around to a Premier League footballer and say, "Mate, you're stupid. Turn around, up face. Don't sit in front of the window." So I just sat there and interviewed him in front of the window. But I interviewed him. I interviewed David Jones, who is now without a club, but former Burnley legend. Legend's probably a bit of a strong word for David Jones, to be fair, but former Burnley player, David Jones. And the best thing I've ever done, I think, for this podcast was meeting Ian Wright. We went to speak to Ian Wright last year in Manchester. It was at the Classic Football Shirts warehouse because he was doing something for BT Sports there, and we just sort of like got shoehorned in off his PR people in the hour beforehand. So yeah, meeting up with Wright. I've got a signed shirt somewhere, but it's not in this room, and I don't want to quickly dive off it and get it and stuff like that. But I think it's on the bed next door, actually. But yeah, I got like an old Burnley shirt from the year that he played, which was 1999-2000, when we got promoted, which I was talking to you about earlier. Found some old Football League sort of like style font on eBay, bought it, Wright 33, went to someone at the club shop who does printing. She wasn't supposed to do it for us, but my friend knows her, so we begged her, and then she got Right 33 put on the back. Then I took it with me and I got him to sign it, and I felt like a king getting it out, because people from other podcasts, they all had these little pieces of white paper. It's like, oh, you signed that, so I've got your signature. I rocked out his old shirt. Went, there you go, mate. Right 33. So I've got a good thing of him, a good memorabilia is a word in it of Right 33. Eventually, we've just moved house. That's why there's no blind on the window, if you're wondering.
Right.
Eventually, I'm gonna move this office into one of the other spare bedrooms, and I'm gonna get that put on the wall, which will look absolutely fantastic. So that's probably the favourite thing I've done with the podcast.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's answered the next one. So it's over to you again, Tom.
Looking back at your YouTube career, what would you do differently?
I don't know, because I think I'm still learning quite a lot. Like this is the first thing I've done. It's weird. I'd like to do more sort of like feature type pizzas. So I don't know if you follow T4 Football or you've heard of them. They do sort of like, say if somebody signs for a club, they'll do, who is this sort of guy sort of piece or whatever. So I want to do that sort of stuff. But yeah, I want to do sort of like feature type stuff where essentially I make a program, basically, whether it's 10, 15, 20 minute or what, I don't know, but sort of like do a look back at Burnley's promotion in the year 2000, and then in an ideal world interview Robbie Blake, Glenn Little, Stan Turner, all these people that were around at the time, and just get sort of like little snippety pieces and do sort of stuff, and then do voiceovers. Basically, it's create a full package, which is what I used to do for a job when I worked in Liverpool. I worked at a news channel, and what I used to do like 5-minute packages of interviews. So basically, it's doing that and extending it to like a decent sized program. But I want to do more of that. But I would have liked to have done that already. So I think that's what I'd do differently. I'd if I were going to start a new Burnley channel tomorrow and I hadn't already started that one, I'd start off with an absolute like banging feature. Like the first video would be like an insane feature of like interviews with like 3 Clarets legends, voiceovers, pictures of Burnley winning, promotion at Scunthorpe or something like that. So that's probably what I'd do differently.
That sounds
cool.
like almost like documentary-ish.
Essentially, yeah, like a YouTube sort of like documentary. Like, I'm not Piers Morgan by any stretch of the imagination, but I like doing stuff like that. Like I've recently left the job at Bradford City as well, so I still met videos and stuff. Like I used to film. Don't know if like Liverpool have got it. I don't know if Chelsea or City have got it. They probably do because Burnley have it. But they sort of like do like an alternative highlights of like a guy with a camera at a pitch side, and you'll get different angles of the goals, and you'll put like some funky music over it, and you do like that sort of vibe. I did that for Bradford City for a year, so I still feel like I'm quite handy with the camera and stuff, and I enjoy making stuff like that. But that's sort of like the vibe that I want to do. Yeah.
I guess you've answered the question after as well. That this was future goals, and so
I need to stop doing that, don't I?
No, it's all right. It's good. It's good.
It shows you're getting it.
So yeah, would you say like doing those more documentary type videos are what you want to go into now?
Yeah, I think I've been thinking recently, like if we sign Nathan Collins, for example, I'm hoping to be able to start off with that sort of stuff. I mean, obviously the problem is with YouTube and stuff, a lot of it, the footage will be copyrighted by Sky Sports and stuff. So I'd have to think of a different way to get around it. If I could do some, I don't know if I use T4 Football as an example again, because they get around that by illustrating these moments, but I can't illustrate and stuff like that. So that'd be a good way of doing it. But yeah, I'd like to do sort of like a piece of like, who is Nathan Collins? What's his background? Where was he born? That sort of thing. What could he bring to Burnley? So I think, yeah, future goals would be eventually get to something like that. But I'm going to start by hopefully doing like some background pieces on a couple of signings, hopefully in the next few days. But if not, I'll wait till the summer.
Fair enough. Cool. That's kind of everything we've brought to ask you about. Is there anything you want to promote or chat out before we start wrapping up?
No, just if anyone's watching or listening to this and they want to check me out, please feel free to do so. You can, it's just TurfCast on pretty much everything, or TurfCast podcast. One of the things I'm going to be doing as well recently is I've been talking about changing the name for ages because I want to, as you do, sell merch. But in my head, like, I know some people do it, and obviously you guys might have had some success with it. But in my head, like nobody's going to wear a t-shirt that just says TurfCast podcast on it. So, but if I had like a decent name like We Are Burnley, for example, I could sell a shirt with like a big circular logo on it that says We Are Burnley, and people will buy that whether they listen to the podcast or not. And then if I sold them on Amazon or eBay, people will come across them for Christmas and things like that. And then it's kind of free advertising, isn't it? Because people are walking around with your logo on their shirt, and then they're going to see your logo on Facebook. They'll be like, "Hold on, that's that thing that I have in my on my scarf and things like that." So I do want to do something like that, but I think I've kind of, because TurfCast has started to gather momentum a bit now. People are aware of the brand a bit more than what they were when I first started thinking of doing this. So I'm thinking of just going to drop the name podcast on it. I'm going to keep the podcast going. Excuse me, I'm going to keep the podcast going, but I think now it's a lot more than a podcast. Like a podcast is just one of, I think this week I'll put 8 videos out. So more than that in the last week, because we've had 2 games. So we had a watch along for the Liverpool game, pre-game show for the Liverpool game, match reaction for the Liverpool game, fan reaction for the Liverpool game. Then when we was live on the watch along, one of the lads wrote a song about a win at Anfield because it was just he can write songs, and I dared him at half time, and he said, "There's no way it'll happen because we're not going to beat him." Then obviously we did, so we had to go and get his guitar. Then I thought I'll dive on this, so I got him to record a full version. I've put that out. Then I've done the pre-game show with Chris from Villa together before tonight's match. Then we're going to do the watch along. Then we're going to do so that's what I mean. Like there's so much that we do. So I'm going to drop the podcast out of the name. But I am going to keep the podcast going. It's just going to be called like TurfCast, or maybe on Twitter call it TurfCast TV, for example. Not Twitter, sorry, YouTube, TurfCast TV. But I think the brand now will just be named TurfCast. So that's probably one thing I'm going to be doing. But just check us out on YouTube. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and I even created a Facebook page for it, which annoyingly does the best. I would prefer to do better on Instagram, or if I could choose. Because I've got like 6,000 followers on Facebook, and if I could transfer all of them over to one, it would 100% be YouTube, obviously. But yeah, annoyingly, that does the best, and they're the most strict with copyright as well. So I can't monetize anything on there, which is annoying. But check us out. That's all I'd say. Just check us out on all the social medias if you can.
We'll certainly do. We'll definitely have your YouTube link in the description of this video. So anyone want to do check him out, it will be there. Ben, is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap things up?
No, just hopefully Phil Foden can keep up his form.
Fair enough. Well, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, do give it a like. And if you are new around here, please do hit the subscribe button. We are creeping towards that 700 mark very, 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 very slowly. Kind of since ever we hit 680. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on Sunday for the Purple Show. Goodbye.